Good afternoon and welcome to Constellation Audio in California, USA. We are very happy to have had Richcom and their dealers visit us on this wonderful September day in 2025. So I want to talk a little bit about the history of Constellation. Constellation started in 2008 when I had this idea of forming a company that was going to be the very best in making some of the best electronics in the world. The issue was that I personally didn't have that expertise or experience. My background was as a medical doctor who used music to relax, to enjoy, and to, I suppose, take myself away from the stress of being a doctor. So I was able to purchase and listen to a lot of wonderful audio products that was in existence at that time. Having done that, it was always a passion to contribute back, in a sense, towards making something that people would also like. So the few things that mattered to me was the sound, the quality of the product, the look of the product, and as I said, the most important thing, that it worked across the board with different pieces of equipment. So I got in touch with friends of mine in the US because I knew the USA had a very long history. I had owned a lot of equipment made here, and I first came across a company that made chassis. They introduced me to one of my engineers, Peter, and he introduced me to a whole team of people, and together we decided to make a bunch of electronics that would hopefully set a new standard in high-end audio. And that happened in 2008. We started the process in 2008. It took us 2 years for the initial batch of products. Don't get me wrong, high-end audio is a continuously evolving process. You're always looking for a better sound, you're looking for a better product, you're looking for better results, etc., etc. You have to start somewhere. And then you grow, you build, you learn. You learn from your mistakes, you make it better. So our first products were actually Hercules, standing here next to me. This product, and Altair was how Constellation was introduced to the world. This was in 2010 in both CES and in Munich. We showed it there for the first time, and amazingly, people saw it and they loved it. From the very beginning, when they heard it is when we knew we had something special. Because you might think that your product sounds good. It doesn't matter. Because what is important is that the people out there, the public, your dealers, the press, and the people who purchase it, the end user, they are the most important people to us, right? Constellation is a team of people. It is a big team. It is not any one person. And that has always been very important to me, right? What am I? I am just the person who makes sure the team does what they have to do, right? I'm like a conductor, I suppose. I set the idea. I say, look, I like to do this. Most of them think I am a little bit crazy because what I ask them is usually beyond what is already there. But they always manage to deliver. Our team of engineers is not one person. We're talking about 5, 6, 7 engineers just looking at the initial range of products. But because of that, we were able to get collaboration that worked really well. And the same thing happened with our chassis design. The same thing happens with our marketing. The same thing happens with our sales. So Constellation has always been, as we say, a collection of stars, and the stars are the people who do their work for Constellation. So we carried on with the first series. We did a few versions over the years, but nothing was enough to call it a new series. It was only in 2022 we started looking at changing what we were doing. We knew we had a solid circuit design. That was amazing, but we knew we could improve it. The biggest difference we found, we started researching what was going to bring our sound to the next level. That, it's always, you don't just put something out there because you say, you need something new. We don't believe in that. You need to do it because you're going to make an absolute difference, right? So Peter, again, and gang said to me, look, Murali, you should consider switch mode power supply. I said, I'm not familiar. And to me, switch mode was not something that people were aware of. But the switch mode that was presented to me they started developing that in 2008. That was when they started developing it. So at the time when we started Constellation, they were doing that. They only perfected it about 3-4 years ago, and then we got them to change it for us to make it unique for Constellation in order to preserve the actual sound that we had. Our sound is a very musical, detailed sound that's very transparent. And it's a sound that gives you the entire spectrum of music where when you listen, you're never tired. You're always involved and you can listen for hours, and that's what you want to do. You want to get lost in the music, right? Music is food for your soul. It takes you away and all brings you to an environment that you really enjoy. So we started doing the first few samples, the prototypes, and we were really thrilled. The results were fantastic. And we then, therefore, I decided, okay, let's go ahead. We will change our products to a C-SMPS, which is a Constellation switch mode power supply. But again, I decided, rather than doing it slowly, I'll do it for everything. And the engineer said, you are crazy, again, because different products require different types of power supplies for the power, etc., etc. Now this became a very interesting situation. When we put the first switch mode into Inspiration, we realized that we have got something truly extraordinary. The power increased by at least 20%. The background noise level just dropped. And it dropped to a point where the music just came out. And you could suddenly really hear what the circuit was capable of doing. We did not have that as much with the original transformer base. So when we did it for Revelation, as you can see from the powers, if you compare the first and second series, the power jump was tremendous. And most recently, we introduced Performance. The performance change was so amazing that our old reference became redundant. So we now have 4 series of products: Inspiration, Revelation, New Performance with meters, and Statement, which is our flagship. Statement was the first product that had the SMPS. It is different from the others because of the power, but it showed us what it can actually do. It gave us the confidence to go forward and do all the other products. In the same way that when we put meters, we wanted Performance to have some little bit of statement. And that technology in the meters and so on was followed through. So we plan to carry on investigating and looking at how we can improve what we do, as we always have done. The next products that we are going to introduce will be the statement preamplifier. That has been a product we've been looking at for a while. It is going to have some unique features. It'll be the first product that Constellation does as a preamp that will have a streamer as an option. We are an analog company. We do analog products the best. So we do amplifiers, preamplifiers, phono stages, all of which are world-class, edge-defining performance. It's what people want to aspire to. We are not a digital company. There are a lot of companies there making DACs and so on that we use and respect and love. However, we understand that the end user would like the convenience of sometimes having streamers and so on. So we are going to implement that into our preamps and integrate it, but do it in such a way where it doesn't interfere with the signal. We want to try and preserve our sound and so on, because digital circuits can be a bit noisy. So you need to be very careful. Where we have an external power supply, our streamer product will go into that. In our integrated products, we'll just have to make it part of the one chassis and see how it goes. It'll be a compromise, but it will be the best that we can do. Also, the way the streamer product will be controlled, as most of us use our phones or our iPads, so you will control it through that interface, not on our screen. Our screen will just be streamer, and then after that it goes on to the thing. There will be more information about this as we get closer to the time of release, which will be at some point next year. So that gives you a brief idea of where Constellation came from, how we got here, and where we are heading. We hope that you will be part of our exciting journey. You know, it's people like you that is most important to us, right? We want our customers and our dealers to love what we do. Listening to what you have, your experiences are very important. So please share that with your dealers, and I'm sure we will get the feedback. Thank you so very much. I think that high-end audio has a number of challenges right now. I think the biggest one is the fact that, you know, globally, people are affected by what is happening. And I think we cannot ignore it, but at the same time, we have to consider that high-end audio, it's like fine watches or fine wines or fine cars. There are always consumers who want the very best, and they can afford it, and we will always try and cater to that audience. So we hope that that particular group of people will have a look at it. On our part, we will always look at the possibility of making products which are more affordable. But that is not something you can just do. You know, it's even more difficult to do a great sounding, affordable product than it is to do a high-end product that, you know, costs no object, because you don't have to worry about it. So we are constantly considering that. Our customers are the dealers. Okay, primarily it's the distributors and dealers. So all our feedback we get from there, though we love getting the feedback from the consumer, the end user. So my VP of sales, Irv, right, when he hears from a customer who calls him up and tells him how wonderful it sounds, Irv is very happy. And he will tell me about it, and we all feel very happy. At the same time, of course, there are customers who would prefer certain things to be done a different way. We understand that. But we hope that they understand that as a company, you cannot simply implement every change that everybody wants. You've got to look at it from a global perspective and say, okay, we can do this, we can do that. So the streamer is a good example. Okay, this is feedback that we have been getting from a lot of people, and Richcom has mentioned this to me a few times. Whilst we are not digital manufacturers, as mentioned, we understand that consumers would like to have this ability. They want to have a streamer just to make their life more convenient and simple. So therefore, we listened, and now we are trying to implement that. And this is how the process works. You know, you try to see what you can do, and if you can do it, you do it. But people need to understand there are limitations in what you can do to not affect your sound. So I hope that answers the question.